Do you like to laugh? I said, do you like to laugh? Huh? Are you a fan of comedy that stands up? Do you like the funny? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a terrific show for you tonight with 3 comedians who I think you are going to love. Todd Kramer, your opener. The middle act with Reum, and your closer, Matthew Bayliss. Matthew is a seasoned stand-up comic who has recently begun to cross over into acting. And in this episode, Jay and I talk about Matthew's 15-year-plus stand-up comedy career and track his progress on his new journey to developing his gift for cracking jokes on stage into a talent for professional acting. Now, stand-up and acting have always run in separate but parallel worlds. And there is the occasional crossover when stand-up comedians are able to step over into acting. But strangely, it doesn't seem to happen the other way around. Comedians become actors, but actors rarely become stand-up comedians. And this begs the question, what is the deal with airline food? I mean, honestly, get it together, Delta. Okay, that's a work in progress, but this one killed at the Shriners. An Irish priest, a rabbi, a nun, a frog, a dog, an American Indian with a horse, a deaf guy with a duck under his arm, a gorilla, Julius Caesar, an astronaut, a genie, and 2 lesbians all walk into a bar together. And the bartender says, "What is this, some kind of a joke?" Oh, what do you know about funny? Ladies and gentlemen, the comedy stylings of Matthew Bayliss. Let's hear it for him.
Yeah,
We're good to go.
great.
Welcome to the Offstage Acting Podcast.
Ooh, welcome.
Audiences around the world celebrating another fantastic episode of the most popular acting podcast in the world,
World famous.
the Offstage Acting Podcast. With Reum, my sidekick.
And Todd Kramer, the captain of the ship,
As
the producer, the big
always.
man, the best.
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you for
aye.
that. Aye. That's right. I needed that boost. Thank you.
You are welcome. You know, sometimes I give you hate, Todd, but you know, you deserve some love. You deserve love. You really
Don't
do.
we all?
He does,
Don't
you
we?
guys.
I think we all deserve some love. You
A
give
little
me
bit, not too
hate.
much.
When do you give me hate? Not to my face.
I guess not. Maybe I don't.
Just behind my back.
Yeah, just behind your back, I tell everyone, "Hey guys, I do this podcast. The host is the worst person I've ever met. But listen, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
not those words."
We had a little rough time getting this podcast off the ground today, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, but we are here and we are present, and that's what's important.
Yeah, that's what's important. It's true. I think it's going to be a good show, actually. I'm excited about this one a little bit because I'm a fan. Jay, you've done a bit of
Oh,
stand-up comedy, haven't you?
I have done a wee bit of
A
stand up.
wee
Yes.
bit. Tell us a little bit about your stand-up background,
Well, in
as
New
it
York
is.
City, there's a stand up comedy place called Caroline's Comedy Club.
Yep.
And I basically did this class there, and then it
Okay.
led to like me being able to go on stage like a
Yeah.
couple of times. I mean, that nothing a big deal, but I did that and some random other stand up open mic things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, this is cool and miserable. I'm saying this now. Maybe I should say this before Matthew comes on and is like, oh, this is, you know, my passion. But I liked it, but I don't know, maybe in New York City, it just was it was sad. So that's my story.
Sad. Was it the other comedians that you felt?
Well,
What
it's
was sad?
like you only go on stage if like you only like I do this Caroline's comedy show, right? And it's like, yeah, you can do this, but you have to get 10 people to come and they have to pay
Oh.
money and they have to buy drinks. And then you try to
Oh.
go to these open mics to work on your material and you go every week and it's always the same people. There's like 8 people, 8 to
Yeah.
10 comedians,
Yeah.
pretty much all guys in this dark black box room where no one's laughing at each other because you've all seen each other and it's
Right.
just sad. It's just like this energy of sadness.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay, no, that's a no for me, dog.
Found yourself into the darkest. I think those are the darkest corners, the darkest recesses of stand-up comedy you found yourself in. But did you enjoy the experience in general, a little bit of being on stage
I
and
did. I
honing
do. Yeah, I did.
a
And like
set?
writing your own material. Yeah, writing, you're not saying someone else's words, you're saying your own, which is
Mm.
really cool. As an actor, I'm used to saying other people's
Yeah, yeah.
words.
I think there's a lot of benefit to doing stand-up for actors because yes, you prove yourself immediately as being able to do a bit of character work, if that's your thing. Definitely that you can write your own material, and you're working stuff out in front of a live audience on a regular basis. Whereas if you're doing a play, you're doing the same material over again, and you might be doing the play nightly, but it's not. Once the run is over, the run is over.
Yes.
Whereas if you're doing stand up, you can go, decades and really just get kind of, well, toughened up in terms
Yeah,
of being in
you
front of an audience.
you need thick skin. Oh,
Yeah.
oh lordy lord.
Yeah, it takes thick skin. I did it myself as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I started well. I was young. I was 20,
Mm,
22, 23.
okay.
Done a bit before that just in uni. And then I did a workshop like you did. I ended up at the Improv at Los Angeles, and I hit for a couple of years, few years. I was hitting the circuits and
Oh,
stuff.
really? You were doing it for a couple years. Wow.
Yeah, kind of on and off, and this and that, and here and there. And back in the days when you had a cassette tape, and you'd be, you had a VHS, somebody make a VHS for you, and then you'd pass that around. Had to print
You'd
or
have a VHS of your comedy show that you would
yeah,
pass around to
yeah.
people.
Well, they would
Okay.
ask sometimes,
Okay.
if
Yeah.
if you had a good set, they go, "Hey, do you have a tape?" And you'd either have that handy, or you'd have to mail it back in and find the guy or the woman that was sort of promoting a show or promoting the
Hmm.
club or booking at the club, and then, um, yeah,
Was
essentially that.
your was your
Mhm.
stand-up pretty raunchy? I feel like I'm trying to get a sense of what your stand-up would be like.
It
Was it
was,
pretty yeah?
yeah. Well, it was pretty juvenile, I guess. It was this. It was
Was there a lot
stuff
of
that.
fart jokes?
No, what do you take me for? It was a lot of,
You said juvenile.
yeah, more like sexual jokes. Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
um,
Classic 22 to
and
24-year-old.
yeah, and childhood trauma, making fun of, I don't know, family stuff and
Same.
issues, and female. Yeah, I saw some of your stand up. I saw that, but I thought as an instrument for acting, it was really beneficial. I
Hmm.
loved it, and then I did a bit more in Europe over the years, and then just took a break. I tried to get back into it here in London years ago,
Hmm.
like a long time ago, and took a workshop again, and did some stage time, and then had my first baby. My child was born,
Oh,
and that took me, yeah, when you have kids and stuff, it kind of took me out of the. And then I was ready
jeez.
to come back. I was like going to launch my big, and I had booked a slot at the Up the Creek here in London, which was it's
Okay, cool.
popular. And then, man, my slot was 2 weeks after lockdown hit. So,
Oh,
yeah, it was like April 30th or 31st or something. I was meant
yeah,
to go to
yeah,
Up the Creek,
that's
and
not
yeah,
happening.
and April 15th, it was like lockdown. I was like, oh my God.
Um,
So that you know, put a damper on it as well.
you're such a hustler, Todd. I remember you were also gonna do a mocap class, right? We did the
I did a
mocap
mocap,
session. You
yeah,
said,
I did a
and
mocap
wasn't it like
class. Oh,
right when the
that's right.
pandemic hit?
That was just before the pandemic.
You're just
Yeah.
a you're just a mover and a shaker, hot toddy.
Trying to do whatever it takes, man. Whatever.
Good for you.
Get
Good for
figure it
you.
all out. um, so yeah, so I'm back to some degree. I'm ready to get back in, get my feet wet with stand up again. Um, really looking forward to it, and I made new friends with.
Mm,
Uh, you've already mentioned him, Matthew Bayliss. And now Matthew's in a unique situation, and I'll tell you why.
okay. Tell me.
He is been a stand-up for, I think, nearly 20 years now.
Oh my gosh.
Certainly about 15 plus. Pro. So he's got
Yeah.
all the, like, he knows all the ins and outs. And I was going to chew his ear about just like what to expect when I get back
Nice.
out there in the circuit. Yeah. And then I thought, well, and here's his deal. So he's going opposite. Now he's about ready to start his acting career
Oh.
in
Oh,
earnest.
that's interesting. So like we're like the opposite, starting, two
Yeah.
endpoints meeting kind of thing.
Yeah. Whereas most of us, like actors, try to maybe try some stand
Oh,
up, and
that's
either you love it or
interesting.
hate it. But he's been doing stand up so long, and now he's like, and he's older.
Huh?
I won't say how old, but you'll be able
Like
to tell when
you
you see him,
old
because
or
he's like,
like
no, he's even older than me. Like which is a testament to old geezers even like me, where you can go, wow, if he can do it at his advanced years, start from scratch
we're giving him so much
in the
material.
acting.
He's probably just like wishing he was here
He's
saying something.
literally flipping me the bird right now, off in the wings. That's lovely. He's a lovely individual. Now, would you like but I thought it'd be interesting to talk to him, obviously, to get a
Absolutely.
perspective, not only in the stand-up, but to see how his acting career is going and how the transition is
Sure.
going and what he thinks and stuff. And we had a beer not long ago, and I had a good conversation kind of about all these things and stuff. And like I said, I was just going to get on the phone and pick his brain about stand-up, because I want to get back into the stand-up scene here in
But
London.
and then you're like, why not just do it publicly on air?
On air. Let's grill him publicly. Probably he won't go into as much gory detail as he will in private, because he does have his career to think about to some degree. And I can't wait to hear all the dirt, but that'll be off air. So for now, we're just going to get like a light dusting of, I love dirt.
You do.
Now, I'm going to show you a little video of him.
Oh,
Would you like
yes.
I found this, and he won't like it.
Oh.
It'll just be I won't play the whole thing because it's quite lengthy.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind that he's much younger in this and fatter than he is now.
Oh,
and I don't know if you can hear it very well.
All right.
He might be upset that I played it, but whatever. It's public. What's he going to do about it? I'll play a bit of it. Let me know if you can understand it, but it's funny stuff. It's funny stuff.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Good evening. We do like a nice polite audience. I suppose I should deal with the first issue straight away. I am a little bit posh. Like one of the other acts, I do sometimes get a little bit of trouble with my accent. One time at a gig, this bloke shouted out from the back. He said, "You up there? You're a middle-class tosser." Yes, I share your shock and indignation. I am, of course, upper middle class. We're up and running. So, yes, the whole posh business is a little bit tricky. I must say I do have some things in common with working class people, or to use the correct political term, people of restricted taste. One of those things. I do like the working classes. I actually have a sofa in my front garden. Admittedly, it is in the summer house. It's a swimming pool in Barbados.
Sofa in his front garden.
Feel the heat. But another thing I have in common with people of that sort of class, I actually have rather a lot of children. Yes, I have 6 children. Sympathy now, yes. I know it's a ridiculous number of children they have. We sort of carried on having kids in the hope that one day we'd get one that we liked. But joy so far, I'm afraid. But I'm sure many of you have children. Children bring a joy to my life, I must say. I suppose the child at the moment who's giving me the most trouble would be my 18-year-old daughter. Yes, you can understand the sorts of issues really about a girl of that sort of thing. But not quite what you're thinking. My trouble with her is she seems to think it's funny that I'm getting a little bit older. And I tell you, with kids of that age, you must fight back. It's the only way. The other day I found a grey hair. And I plucked it out. Could you just put your hand out? And I went to her, and I said, "Look, that there is my first grey hair." She went, "Ha ha ha, from my pubes." To me, that's perfectly acceptable. sadly make an 80-year-old girl cry. Some of you gentlemen may have done yourselves as well, I really don't know. But children, I mean, the wonderful thing, pop your hands up if you've got kids. Who here's got kids? You all got kids? How many kids have you got now?
3.
You've got 3, very good. Now, how many you've got? 2? Okay, don't worry, we're not being competitive or anything. Actually, if we are being competitive, I win anyway, don't I? So that's fine. Then may I ask ages and names of your kids?
Identical twins.
Oh.
Same age.
Well, they would be really.
All right, we'll leave it there. Yeah, a little round of applause. And here's our guest, Matthew Bayliss. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello. That was 11 years ago. I saw it. Just came up on the thing there.
Yep.
I have brown hair.
You had brown hair and you had more weight.
I did. I was 3.5 stone heavier in those days. So it was.
Nobody knows what that means except for the English.
Yes. Pounds. You do pounds only 50 pounds.
50 pounds.
Oh, wow.
That's a
50
lot,
pounds,
yeah.
yeah.
50 pounds heavier. And your material was crap.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. I do the same stuff now.
It's the same stuff.
Nothing's changed except
Nothing's changed in that 11 years.
A few more topical references. Yeah.
No, it was really funny, actually. How do you feel about seeing yourself?
I am very vain. So,
so you're
like
modified.
you, I love to look at myself, and I'm very concerned about it. I mean, people won't understand that there was a little setup just before we did this, and then we saw the real vanity of the Toddcast starting at the front. But now he's all smiles and big cheesy American smiles. Beforehand, it was furrowed brow, and telling me off about using words like.
Yeah, no, don't do it.
We were so close. Yes.
So first of all, 6 children. Let's dig
you want
into
some
that.
Instructions? I don't know. What do you want?
I mean, let's figure that out. I think that's
No, it's very easy. When a mummy loves a daddy very much.
right. When a mommy and daddy love each other.
And not when the daddy loves the mommy, just the mommy loves the daddy.
No, just the mummy loves the daddy.
Catholic. I mean, how do you end up with what was the decision there? Or was it a decision?
You actually started a conversation. And then went like this. When would you just tell me? Would you just go?
And then I put the coffee. Well, you're meant to pick up the conversation from there.
Oh,
explain yourself, Matthew. Why do you have 6 children? For God's sake.
I had a very attractive wife.
Nice. All right.
So what can you do?
Okay.
What can you do?
All
the
right.
girl says, "Honey, he'll lick." So no.
That's got to be beeped. I don't even know what that means, but that's got to be beeped. How old are your kids? Your oldest is?
Now they are 34 is the oldest, down to 24.
24. So yeah, they're all out of the house. The reason I'm sort of asking is because I'd mentioned earlier that like when I had my baby and then I had another baby 4 years later, I just had to put a pin in all my hopes and dreams in terms of acting and performing. But you presumably were kind of out there. It's you had kids running around.
Well, it was a sort of grotty situation. I had I've been married a long time, had all the kids, and they were then when I started 17 down to 7. But my wife had been very ill, and it was quite evident that she was going to die, and she did. And once she had died, I'd run a business. I had cash in the bank. It was all fine. I was going to be able to carry on, but I just withdrew from working and looked after the kids because that's what you got to do. So I wanted something part-time to do, and comedy can be part-time, same as acting. I mean, find me a full-time actor. If they're not in EastEnders, they're a part-time actor. So I wanted something to do to occupy myself. Wanted to put myself out of my comfort zone, and there was a comedy course. So I went on a comedy course, and it's just started from there.
Was that something you were always sort of attracted to, doing comedy?
I think so. I did a bit of acting when I was a kid, just after uni. But comedy seemed to sit more comfortably with me because you don't have to remember lines. I mean, you do remember lines because you've got a set. All this sort of smoke and mirrors of it's just improvised is rubbish. You have a set and you know what you're going to talk about. So so that's that. But the difference is that it's my set, it's my words. So yeah, I can make it up and change it as much as I like.
Yeah, and play with it. And you were obviously in that set just doing crowd work, as we call it, riffing
Not
with the audience
really.
and things.
No. I mean, the crowd work is usually rehearsed as well.
It's built in with the crowd. You actually pull people aside before the show and say, "Listen,
best." No. That would be too much. But when you find that something weird happens in a show, if you haven't got something to deal with it, if you haven't got something to come back with, you go away and you write something down, because you'll think on the train on the way home, or as you're driving home, you think, oh, if only I'd said that, that would have been brilliant.
Yeah,
Totally.
And then when you remember it, you write it down, because it will happen again.
Mm.
In the same way as a reaction for an actor will happen the same every night. That will come back, but it might come back in 500 gigs.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I meant though is that you were branching out into uncharted territory, in the sense that you don't know what can happen. You were going off piste a bit, and you had a couple funny lines, with the twins and things like that. And,
yeah,
so
that's
unscripted in that sense.
No, that wasn't expected. That you just got to deal with. But the nice thing is, if you've if you're well rehearsed and you know what you're going to do, you at least know the route through what you're going to do. Then you've got the mental capacity to cope with a few other bits.
Totally.
There are one or two brilliant acts who just go on stage and they're better when they're not doing material. I'd encourage everybody to watch a guy called Russell Hicks, who's an American actor over here. He's a brilliant improviser, and he will just improvise with the room, with the people that he's meeting, and everything. And it's just a joy to see. He's actually not quite as good when he's doing material. It's still brilliant, but he's better when he's just improvising and going for callbacks. You're familiar with the term callback?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
But the audience is...
and he's just grabbing things from all over the place. He's got an extraordinary mind. Whereas other acts are very different. Other acts just have to follow their set. The sort that you'd see at the Comedy Store will typically more often be people that just do a set, perform the set, and that's that done. Whereas in different sorts of clubs, you can get away with it's better to improvise with the crowd. So I'm somewhere in the mid. I'm more at the end of doing a set, but I like to engage with people.
When did you realize that you were, well, I don't want to say funny, because the jury's still out on that, but that you were attracted to comedy? At what age did you say, this might work? No, what age?
Probably about the same age as you realised you're a cynical swine. Around,
so like
round about the same sort of age.
4 or 5
no,
years old?
Younger than that. Younger, I would have thought. You've always known, really, haven't you?
You kind of do know, yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things you've got to try. I mean, people talk down the pub and at school and with your friends, and you might recount a story, and if the story goes well, that's fine. Some people can't remember a joke. A simple joke, and they say, oh yeah, I heard this joke from the other day, it was really funny, and they'll stumble over it and not get it right. While we're here, just a joke for everyone to take away. How do you get a fat bloke into bed? Piece of cake. That's one to remember, okay?
Beautiful.
Because that's one we can take away from the podcast.
That's a free one, huh?
I want everybody telling that, because it's an easy one to remember. You just need that little comedy pause in the middle. Timing is a pause. That's all. That's Todd's joke now. How do you get a fat bloke into bed? Piece of cake. Yeah. You can't do it about a woman, because that's punching down.
Right.
But you can do it about, because effectively I'm doing it about myself.
That's great.
Got it.
That's good. That's a good tip. Bonus tip for everybody out there.
Bonus tip. Sorry, what was the question?
Well, I'm just kind of curious when you got your first kind of laugh, and when you said, all right, that's interesting.
Well, I wanted to be out of my comfort zone. I wanted to try it. I wanted to see if it
but
worked.
that's professionally as an adult. I mean, like, there must have been some point as a child, because you're stuffy English guy from, where are you from?
New Zealand, so not a stuffy English guy.
Oh, really?
No, you're not from New Zealand. You were born, where are you from?
Oh, okay.
You were born in
somewhere in stuffy England.
You're completely English.
Totally English, totally stuffy, totally
Yep.
stuck up. Yeah.
Totally.
Upper middle class, as we've learned already.
Yeah, as we've learned from your set, that's all been pre-established. I'm not saying anything out of school here, I don't think.
Okay.
Not telling tales, am I, Matthew?
No.
But
I think it was when I went to what we call sixth form, which I think you'd call year 12 sort of thing. I hadn't done any sort of theatre or anything like that then, and I just enrolled on a course where I could do improvisation.
okay.
And then from that, you ended up doing improvised plays. So you work out the play yourself and as a group and do the plays.
Right.
And instantly, in the very first one, I gravitated to being the comic character. And you say something on a stage, everybody laughs, and it's something about it that's very warm, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't help but like it. It's a little bit of a drug.
Definitely.
So that was probably it, and then it's something that stuck in my head. I did some student acting, did a little bit of professional acting, and then
12th form. So you were about what, 16?
I think
yeah, I guess
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 12th grade. So you start and that was at school or outside of school?
And that was at school. Yeah.
Yeah. Improvised plays and things, and then after that, so you went into some.
I went and did a degree, did some bits and bobs around the degree. After the degree, I thought it was more as therapy than anything else. All comics and possibly a large amount of actors put themselves through this weird thing of wanting to go on stage and sort of tits and teeth on stage, perform on stage is very odd. But for a comic, it's even worse because you're going to try and validate yourself by talking to a room full of people that you don't actually know.
Right.
What is going on?
Yeah.
So it's very
There's
odd. So there's
something odd
usually
about that,
something, some sort of damage or problem with a comic.
Well, and that
they've
was
gone
with
through.
you. I mean, you had kind of what anyone would consider a tragedy.
Yes.
Your wife passed away, and that was something that was going to be therapy for you.
Yeah, but before that, as a kid, I think everybody is somewhere on the spectrum they think of. Everybody has some sort of problem, some sort of weakness that they want to deal with, and you think about the class clown, and I suppose I was a bit the class clown as well in my circle. I mean, the other people were even less funny than me, so I actually bubbled up as the class clown. I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it? So I think there was stuff going on anyway, stuff in your psyche anyway. And I discover late in my years that I am also neurodiverse, which is not something I want to particularly bang on about. But there was something from way back that was troubling me, and an expression of that. Most comics, I think, have some sort of damage that they're trying to deal with, and they push themselves forward to get out of that sort of situation. For me, I was excruciatingly shy. And so doing a bit of improvisation and doing a bit of drama and theatre was a way of getting over my shyness. And then it just carried on and carried on and carried on. And I wanted to act purely because I thought the idea of being paid for my therapy was quite useful.
Right.
And then I parked it for 30 years because I needed to
make a living.
Earn money, buy a house, have children, all that sort of stuff. So it was buried, but I was still sort of around the theatre world. My wife worked in theatre, so it was there, but it just doesn't pay, does it? Theatre doesn't pay.
No.
Then they reckon that if there's anything else that will bring you joy, you should do that instead. As long as you don't fall so low that you end up doing a podcast, say. I mean, that would be. Can you imagine?
Got him.
And even to secretly tell your friends that it's really called, you like to refer to it as your Toddcast. I mean, it's beyond sad.
Matthew coined that phrase today, Todd.
Beyond.
I love personally,
yes.
but
it's really good.
I haven't been spreading it. And that's a lie that I've been spreading that around. But I'm happy for people to use it now. Were your parents funny?
Yes. My father reminded me of an old English comic called Eric Morecambe, who would mean nothing. Yeah, absolutely. I think in the sort of 1970s, everybody thought their dad was a bit of Eric Morecambe, but my dad was particularly like that. Didn't want to perform, My
No.
mother was a performer, but my dad certainly wouldn't want to perform.
Your mother
But
was a
he just had
performer.
that sort of knack about him.
Huh.
That's all.
What did your mother do?
She was a singer mostly, Royal
okay.
Choral Society, and yeah, it's a really good voice. She's still going. The voice is
Really?
at 91. The voice isn't quite what it was, but it's she's still got a voice.
That's amazing.
So still singing.
Still got a voice. And she's singing.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
amazing. You got siblings?
I have a brother and a sister.
Are they funny? No, not so much.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing about stand-up is it's a lot of stand-ups aren't very funny when you just meet them.
No,
They're just not.
Yeah, that's true.
When they're doing the performance, they're funny, but when you meet them, they're not funny.
As people in general,
Witness,
they're not funny.
yeah. Okay, someone had to say I got in first. Okay,
Well done.
thank you. I am wondering. I used to do some radio things, and I remember there was a radio presenter called Terry Wogan.
Oh, is this the guy that got like in Greece? Is this the same?
No.
Are we talking about something totally different?
No,
Great.
we're talking
I was
about
Totally
shocked.
different, but nice enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well done.
yeah.
I admire the enthusiasm and the.
Well done with the. Yeah.
He was
Terry
stopping
Wogan,
the whole
yes.
conversation with the error.
Anyway, he used to have sort of 7 million people every morning were listening to him on a radio station in the UK.
Yeah.
And he was a very
Morning
genial
radio
sort.
guy.
And he said that you should always, when you're on radio, and I'm sure this applies to podcasts as well, assume that you are only talking to one person. You're particularly talking to one person. And I'm just wondering if that actually is the case.
Yeah, I think we
Oh,
are assuming.
We're talking to just the one person, aren't we?
We also assume that we have only one listener.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the
ultimately.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
Which we thank. Thank you, listener.
We want to
thanking
thank
the
our
listener.
listener now. Special. Speaking of which, get 25% off, listener, at Subway sandwiches. Just
Other sandwich stores are available.
yeah. So okay, moving through the career.
Oh, that's very
trajectory.
bold to think of it as a career. Thank you. Thank you. Bless you.
Yeah, well, we got to come up with some kind of angle here.
I had a career and then I became a comic.
What was your career before comedy? What were you
I was a headhunter, executive search.
That's right.
Yeah.
Executive search. So, not a lot of space in there for comedy.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, occasionally you say really, really stupid things as a headhunter.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm a recruiter was one that very almost lost me a deal, because it's like say, trust me, I'm an estate agent, isn't it?
I was gonna say, I'm an insurance salesman. Yeah. You can trust me.
I said it with a twinkle in my eye, but I'm almost
they weren't
almost
getting it. I don't think they were getting the irony of what you're saying. Yeah. No, I'm just wondering, because it must have been frustrating. I know how frustrating it was for me to pretend that I wasn't the thing that I am when I had to take on jobs, and pretend to be something else.
Are you about to announce that you are something else?
Professional. I'm anything.
Burst into I am what I am in a moment.
I am. No, I'm saying in general that people of a certain ilk, performers, have difficulty portraying themselves as being professional. There's a world of the professional, the corporate type, those that live and breathe and operate and function very well in those worlds, and those that just can't stop seeing the irony and the ridiculousness of it all, and commenting on it and trying to bite their tongue if that's the world they're in.
Yeah, all those issues were there, but I never rose completely to the very top. I would do sort of second tier people, sort of 100,000 UK salary to 250,000 UK salary, rather than the very top ones, because I'm a bit light.
Right.
I'm not serious enough for the real gravitas of the person that's running the company. So I'll be dealing with the next level down, the C-suite sometimes, often, but because I'm not. When people talk about synergy and thinking out of the box and sort of all the sort of corporate gobbledygook, I mean,
Yeah.
can't help but laugh.
Yeah, it all just sounds so fake.
But the nice thing is, in the corporate world, when you do get quite senior, you stop worrying about getting senior. You're not scraping away up the greasy pole anymore. So you do relax again, and you're light again, and nice again, and normal again. So
established yourself. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
And if you're not, then you'll never hear from me.
So Matthew decides at some point that he's going to do just a complete life shift. He's ditching the headhunting game.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to start hitting the circuit, and he starts by taking a workshop.
Yeah, it was a course. It was I mean, even back in what would have been 2007, there was this funny thing called the internet, and so I googled comedy course, and there was a comedy course, and it was pretty shady. It was two afternoons in a grotty pub in Richmond, and I did the comedy course, and there was a guy there saying, almost with a sort of alcoholic slur, that only the young people will be successful, and there were 12 eager people, and he said, if any of you want to come and do a spot at one of our clubs, then you can come and do it on this particular date, get 5 minutes of material together and come and do it. And everyone says, yes, we'll be there. And of course, nobody else turned up except for me.
Wow.
And they knew that nobody else would turn up, because that's what normally happens. People just lose the nerve. And so they had a complete lineup of other people, but they were much longer sets. They weren't doing 5 minutes. They were people doing a proper 20-minute set.
They squeezed you in there.
Yeah, exactly that. So they had three acts doing 20-minute sets, which is the normal way. You have an MC and then act with breaks. The reason you have all the breaks is for selling booze.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And then they were all getting small amounts of cash for it, and they squeezed in the 5-minute bloke just before the middle act, because that's the sweet spot. That's nice and easy, really.
What was your bit?
My bit.
You remember anything? What was your
It was clumsy. I'd worked it out. I thought it was funny. People laughed. Not always in the right places, but they did laugh, and they were very supportive. Nobody knew it was my first act, first set, and I loved it. And at the end of it, there was a round of applause as I walk off the stage doing my super short spot. And then the MC came back onto the stage, and he said, just to let you know, that's the first time Matthew's ever done this. And everybody in the room stood up. Everybody in the room clapped, turned around, clapped towards me. And I thought, shit, it's never going to get this good.
That's a great memory.
Never has.
And that was it. Never has after that. Yeah.
Downhill ever since. So,
yeah.
But that's so cool.
That's a cool memory. But that's enough to have put the hook in you. Yeah.
And then I did some gigs when I died on my arse, and then it's ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs now. And learning, it's endless learning. Does this room work? Should this room work? Oh my goodness, this room does work. What a surprise. Does saying that work? One or two excruciating deaths. There's nothing like that moment when you realize I've completely, add your own bleep, this up.
Bombed.
Oh, awful. Walking off to the sound of your own footsteps. One time I was so arrogant that because things had been going well, I just thought I'll weld that bit there in with that bit there, and that'll go nicely together, and ended up completely embarrassing the audience. I'd done this funny bit and then effectively said, my wife recently died, and the audience went, hey, oh shit.
Oh.
He went, no, that's not a joke. She actually died.
And I realized that they were feeling really awkward and uncomfortable now. And I carried on, and they still felt awkward and uncomfortable. And I got off. It'd been going so well before that. But that was just learning.
Yeah.
The other thing is doing filthy material early on. If you're going to do anything filthy, you save it for the end when you've got their trust.
Yeah.
Because you do it early, and they go, oh no, don't like that. Don't like that.
This is creep.
So again, you learn more. And what looks impossible, there's always a way. So there's pretty much no unplayable gig. because you can change things. I had one last week where there was a big gap between the stage and the crowd.
Right.
A nice big crowd in, sort of 150 people in or something like that. And yet there was 12 feet until the first people.
Right.
And so before it started, I was going to be the opener. So I went out and I encouraged the people to move their tables forward so that they're only sort of 3 feet away from me, and that's fine. And then you can build that atmosphere. So you can literally change
Literally
it.
had to do it. Yeah.
Or the MC can ask people to come down to the front row. And if the MC is any good, they'll not only attempt that, but they'll make it work. And I have the sort of, I sound like a merchant banker or your high school teacher or something like that. People tend to do what I ask them to do. So if I'm ever emceeing, I'll ask people to come down to the front, so they're all sitting at the front, so we get some sort of vibe. So you can set up the room differently. You can change your act differently to something different. Students want something different too. Old people like
jokes
I was
about
pointing
the
at you,
World
Todd.
War II.
Yeah. So
You're older than me, mate.
It's true.
Let's-
It's true. I just
let's-
look younger, which is something, isn't it? This is called moisturizing.
That's the comedy gold.
I have also realized that it was time to do something about my long hair.
Oh,
So you decided to go bald?
Yeah, that's the way you see it. Look, luscious locks. I'm not
I
hanging
said,
on to
"Nah,
anything.
no more of
with,
that. I'm going with the Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, what? He's not in great shape, you know.
No. Well, his hair dropped.
Oh, just
lost
the
his
hair. Just
the
the
hair.
hair.
I mean, the Bruce Willis hairstyle.
So there we go.
Okay, so let's go back now. Thank you for all the tips, but I want to dig into your trajectory. You come off stage, you're hooked, you loved it. How long now before you you're working the craft, you're figuring out these clubs, you're getting in touch with promoters? Like, what was that first 2 or 3 years like when you're just getting started?
Well, in those days, it was, I think, easier than it is now. It had been easier still before that. I'd say 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years before I started, there were very few comedians, and it was a very new circuit. So you'd find that you were going from gig to gig, several gigs each night, and getting paid for it and getting paid well. There were also some good comedy chains that cropped up. Jongleurs was the most famous, I guess, where you'd work on a Friday and Saturday, might get 2 gigs on the Friday and the Saturday. On a Thursday, you get a gig possibly as well at the same venue, might even be a Sunday as well. And you get this long run, and there were various venues dotted around the country. So people were well paid. It had declined by the time I arrived. And obviously, as a consequence of me arriving, it declined further.
Right.
But I was still getting paid gigs within
Pretty much immediately.
3 months
Right.
of starting.
Decently paid gigs.
No,
And were you doing no, just paid.
Paid gigs, 70 quid, 100 quid sort of gigs.
That's not terrible.
But for 2007, that's worth more than it's worth now.
Yeah.
And it's
This is
declined since.
It's
For
declined.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, 10-minute slots.
No, 20-minute sets.
20-minute sets. Okay.
The currency is pretty much a 20-minute set.
20-minute, yeah.
Openers
But you had
should-
20 minutes after 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just sitting down writing your material?
You're writing your material, you go along to open mic nights and you try your material. The things that people laugh at, you bank that, you still edit it. The people that people don't laugh at, you think, is that really funny? Is that really funny? And you've got to be honest with yourself. It's all about editing. And so you edit the stuff that's good to make it really good, and you edit the stuff that's bad or that still has potential to make it acceptable, and you dump the crap, and you're probably dumping 90% of the things that you think are funny.
Well, in your case, I would say even probably
maybe more.
Yeah.
And everybody has a joke that they think is funny that they keep going with for ages.
Yeah. And they're just trying to. I know there's a funny in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I got to get it, find it.
My one, I buried this within other jokes. You'd have a run of jokes, so it'd be joke, laugh, chuck this one in, tumbleweed.
Yeah.
And I see if I
What
can
was it?
remember. It was just a little idea of why people had children, and it was just the idea that a friend of mine had a child because he couldn't afford a dog, which is really interesting but lame. It's not funny. It's just not funny, as witness the fact that you didn't laugh.
No.
But I thought this is lovely. A friend of mine had a child because he couldn't
There is
afford a
something
dog.
to it.
There is, but it's not laugh out loud funny.
No, it would have to
It's
be
an
attached
interesting
to some
idea.
other broader.
I just don't get it.
Oh well, there we go.
Yeah.
That's not my problem.
Right. Hence the culling of the joke.
Okay. So it had to go. It had to go.
Good.
But that's the one that I kept, and I probably did that.
You kept
60
trying to
times.
chuck in there and find it. Yeah, find.
And every time it was the weak link. So it had to go. But yeah, edit, and you'll watch acts like. Have you heard of Milton Jones? Does that name means anything to you?
No.
No, okay, well worth a look. I mean, he's a very well-known name. He sells out 1,000-seater rooms all the time now. It was an overnight success after 20 years.
Yeah.
By going on Mock the Week a few times. Great one-liner act, and he will tell you it's all about just half a pause here, taking out a single word there, and it's all about making it shorter if at all possible. Edit. Gary Delaney is another one-liner act. Beautiful lines that he comes up with. Married to Sarah Millican. That must be a strange relationship. No, I mean, it's a wonderful relationship, I'm sure. But imagine breakfast time. What are they talking about?
Wonderfully strange.
But again,
so when did you start?
edited.
When did you start? What year was it? We're talking 2000?
2007.
7. You actually physically kind of start and jump in there.
April the 22nd.
Okay, good memory. Nice.
My
Significant
wife's
date?
birthday.
Okay. Wow. Right. Oh, so that's it's yeah. So there's a whole thing happening here, therapeutically speaking, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when I started. Paid work fairly quickly, and then because it's part-time, because it's all part-time, you're just getting better in increments each year. Some people have an amazing gift. Most people drop out at some point or other. I mean, Jay tried it and thought, this is not for me. You tried it and it's still an itch you want to scratch. There's maybe a recurring theme there, I don't know, with your various itches.
Lots of itches.
You need to scratch.
I've got an ointment now, so
that's good. Good.
Doctor prescribed. So let's drive this a little bit forward towards the acting, because now you become successful. You would call yourself successful.
So sarcastic, isn't it? You almost spit successful. Become successful.
I'm just trying to gauge your perception of your career. You've been going for nearly 20 years, right? So there must be some level of success.
Oh, hot toddy.
I'm just going by logic.
You're a shovel.
Do you feel unloved?
At what level, like the success? But you're enjoying it. You did some telly. You started doing some...
I just marvel at the fact that it's almost as if you're trying to drag people down.
No, I'm trying to drive the conversation into an area that's getting us away from all the pro tips about stand-up comedy. I'm trying to get us into... This is an acting podcast for actors.
Okay, acting.
So I want to talk about career successes, and then what is the motivation then to shift. So I'm trying to establish a few things. Okay, just bear with me.
Where did I get to that was vaguely useful? I close gigs now rather than opening gigs and MC, but it doesn't matter. You'll take whatever's going. The money is often similar whether you're MC, opening or closing. It's usually marginally better if you're closing gigs. I've gigged overseas quite a lot, and I like doing that. I haven't done Edinburgh shows because it's just costs you a lot of money,
right?
And I don't really want to listen to myself for 45 minutes. I mean, we've been going 47 minutes, but you took the first 10, so it's not too bad.
It's starting to get exhausting.
Yeah, it's starting to heat up a bit now, isn't it? And I've done.
You had an
some,
agent for a while, like a booking agent.
You work with booking agents. There's no point unless you're doing TV or film or anything like that having a proper agent, because they're just taking 10 or 15% of very small numbers.
Right.
I mean, 250 quid to close a gig is not really worth writing the invoice, I don't think.
Right.
So yes, you just work with booking agents who either take a fee from the person that's running the gig, or they take a fee from their own acts and the person that's running the gig, because they get so double dipping.
It's a double dip. Cut it out.
But yeah, so lots of overseas work. Not
like
too
where?
long
Where did you
gig.
go overseas? Where do they love you?
Oslo, Prague, lots in Spain, a fair few in France, South Africa, New Zealand. Sorry.
Who loves you the most? Where do you get the most love? Who loves the posh Matthew Bayliss?
Mostly the rough women love.
Right.
Rough
love
women.
Like
I did actually have a woman come on to me after a gig. She was very, very drunk. Obviously, as you would expect.
Right.
And she gave me a great line. She said, "You know, I like a bit of posh."
Oh.
And I thought this is Lady Chatterley in verse, isn't it?
In reverse, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
I like a bit of posh me. Where was that from?
It got worse. She invited me to go and have sex in her car.
Wow.
That sounds like.
And I said to her,
what kind of car is it?
What sort of car?
There it is.
Yeah.
Great minds, we think alike.
She's still thinking that a Vauxhall Astra just wasn't enough.
She upgraded her car for next time.
If only that would have made all the difference, I'm sure.
It would have, yeah.
So
the size
I'm very attractive to a woman of a certain demographic. I
didn't mean attractive to women. I meant the audiences. Jeez.
I love the specificity.
Tragically, the demographic that now works for me is sort of 82 to 85.
That's very specific.
Yeah.
Those are still women, though, yeah?
No.
Not necessarily.
People get less fussy at that sort of vintage. So.
Right.
No, different. It doesn't really matter. I mean,
I'm just trying to.
It's always in English. I can't do anything not in English.
No, of course.
So
there's audiences for people that don't understand. There's audiences in Spain and places where they don't. I mean, obviously in Sweden they speak English, but Spain, France, Prague, those aren't English-speaking countries, or countries where people speak English.
Well, you get a lot of English people there.
Expats,
but I do remember in Prague, the MC actually asked the audience who here has English as their first language, and not a single person had English as their first language.
Right. Wow.
Which made me think this is going to be tricky, as I do sort of royal family references and talk about Marmite and things like that.
Right. Boy, that
the Marmite is obviously in relation to yeast infections.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously you'd have worked that out. But I just did my set as it was, and the nice thing is that if anyone's not quite getting it, when you're part of an amorphous group, you're part of a crowd, you all laugh anyway. So you know he's come to the punchline. We all laugh. Everyone around me is laughing. I found myself laughing even though I have no idea what Marmite is. So it doesn't really matter. But no, I can only gig in English. But in all those places, there are either English people have moved there, or English speakers have moved there, or the English is so good that they can understand.
Who's booking those gigs for you?
But it tends to be booking agents, or someone runs a single gig. Most frequently, someone just runs a gig. And if you know that person and they like what you do, they book you to go and do their gig.
Okay.
But there are also some dedicated clubs, Hot Water in Liverpool, for example, Comedy Store 99 in London, the Turk's Head, what's it called? Oh God, it's gone from me. Bearcat in Twickenham. So there are particular clubs, but mostly it's just one person runs a club, or maybe a few clubs. Or there's a booking agent who books different things for different
show or a night. Yeah. What's your favorite club? Have you got one? Where do you love to work? Where do you love to work?
Probably Jaggers in Bournemouth. Is lovely because it's got, you get a lot of stags and hens in there, stag groups and hen groups, which is difficult. It's
Bachelor
quite niche.
parties.
It's quite niche to deal with that because you have to be in charge. And I just really like that venue. And
Okay, you like that? You like being in charge of those?
a lot of people die a painful death
I'll
there.
bet. I wouldn't. I don't think I would
But
want.
I've always had a nice time because they don't know how to take me. I can get away with 20 minutes, you see.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
so-
shocked by the posh. It's not a lot of posh accents on stages doing comedy, is there?
Oh, I don't know. Simon Evans is fantastic. He's
Yeah, okay.
well worth Googling Simon Evans. I was once taken off a gig because he was going to be on it as
Right.
well, and
We
they
don't
said
need
they
two
can't.
posh heads. Yeah.
We need diversity, really.
Right.
Two posh white middle class men can't do that.
Isn't diverse enough.
I was booked for later on. So yes, it's all fine. But I have thought to myself, I want to do other things as well.
All right, let's get to it. Let's get into it.
And
'cause
as
we've
I've
been
reached a
talking-
certain vintage, I thought I would look back at acting and
Yeah.
anything else that is interesting to do. So
What was it that
because-
the other day we had a conversation and you said you did an actor's speech, a long actor's speech. Do you remember? And I told
there must
you,
be a term for that.
yeah, and I said, you mean a monologue?
A monologue.
You called it. Was that what you called it? I had done a long actor's speech, something like that. I was like, I think
Fair.
that's called a monologue. You're like, oh yes, that's right.
That's very generous and kind and benevolent of you to recognize that some people that don't have knowledge may need mocking.
Yeah,
Okay.
straight
That's
from
very-
the get-go. Well,
very kind of
and you're feel free to mock me about my lack of understanding of the comedy.
No, it's
stand-up comedy
only
world.
love from me and always love from Todd.
That was all. That was
fellow
love.
listeners.
You don't feel educated? Now you'll never say long actor's speech again. You'll say
Long
monologue.
actor speech. I probably will. I prefer it. I'm going to start a thing about it. Anyway, you wanted to get back to stick
When
with
did
the
you
knitting.
get? When did you get an? So you went out looking for an agent. How long ago? Fairly recent.
Yeah. Well, I met someone. I didn't know I was going to do acting until I gave up work. I just thought I want to do other things.
Gave up.
So I gave up work.
or work in general.
And one time one evening I just was browsing jobs and stuff that I might do, things I might do, and I saw this thing, and it was an immersive theatre. They described it as. They wanted people to be wait for it, Father Christmas.
Oh, I did see this.
I thought,
somewhere.
look at this,
Yeah.
look at this, look at this. Look at...
Yeah.
Actually, I had to shave the beard off, but it was a thing at Lapland, UK, which is like a sort of Disney-esque thing. 1,000 performers, and it's wonderful. It's really a joyous thing, and very worthwhile. And yeah, it was just a very positive experience. I sent off a note saying I'm interested in this, and they thought, comedian, he'll engage with people really well.
Right.
Got the gig, and I met somebody else there who happened to be run an agency. Oh, get away with you, you arse!
Good. You
Did
think
we
I
beep?
don't? You don't think I do my research? There he is. That's a picture of.
no,
That's a
no.
great
picture of
photo.
our
There you go.
man. Lapland.
go.
There he is. As
There you
Santa Claus.
No, Father Christmas. You
Father
can't-
Christmas.
What's the
Oh,
difference?
and yeah, there's the agency. Well done. The
There's
agency.
your, if
please.
you're looking for talent.
if you're looking for an agent, okay, take it away. No one's meant to know. Don't
a great
don't
photo.
spoil the magic for the kids. But there was a guy there who runs an agency, and we got talking.
Okay.
And I said, well, this is my first acting thing for 30 plus years.
Mhm.
What do I do? Yeah, can I join your agency? He said, and we talked about it and got stuck in. So now I'm represented, and they put me forward for interesting things as well. But I can also look for interesting things myself.
Right.
So since then, I've discovered that in the same way as an actor wants some comedy experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm interested to know why you would want comedy experience, because I don't think you should want it in order to try and make a living as a comic if you're already an actor.
Yeah. No.
I think it's there's a set of useful skills to get by
Yes.
doing comedy.
Also exposure.
Yeah, forget it. I think
Okay, great. Well,
it's
never mind then.
being a comic is very attractive, I've learned. And I'm obviously very hung up on being attractive.
Yeah.
It's very
working
attractive
for you.
to people who are doing castings, because there are comic plays and comic adverts and comic all sorts of things.
There's
Someone
also
who can
castings and things that specifically say looking for
Absolutely.
someone with comedic timing,
exactly.
stand-up comics, yeah, improv.
And don't
people.
forget, as we've learned already, comic timing is just a pause.
Mm.
So all there is to it. But being able to spot
Timing.
something, bad Todd. Yeah.
Pause.
Pause, just a pause. We'll do a long pause at the end of the podcast, shall we?
Okay.
We'll do a really long pause.
And so, is that
Do a pause for the rest of your life. At the at the risk of stating the obvious, anything that has some sort of comedy thing, people want. Anybody who has some sort of improv skill that isn't swaying like the trees or something. I mean, there's some weird improv that goes on in the world, but improv that's comedic, being able to respond
comedic
to
timing and having the ability, particularly on set, when you're shooting something, even if it's just a commercial, they're often looking for somebody that can react quickly, can write a little bit more dialogue.
Sure.
Not that you're actually sitting down and writing it, but I've come up with dialogue for, the project on the spot, lines and quips and things like that. So they're often looking for that, to be fair.
And with adverts, it seems to be that they've not always got the script.
No, they don't. It's a work in progress usually.
Yeah, do something, and
they're looking for you to and they're relying on the performer to bring something new or something engaging to the piece. And
but the risk can be that you do something interesting and they take that interesting idea and give it to a different person.
They will do that. Yeah,
do that.
They'll steal it.
So there does seem to be a lot more opportunity than I think there is for the conventional actor. I know my niche. I'm not going to be doing King Lear anytime soon.
Well,
but I was recently offered
a wacky King Lear.
A wacky King Lear. But there are comic parts in Shakespeare. So I was recently in conversation, but have turned down doing Bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream.
You turned it down.
Yeah. But there are other. There are opportunities, but I'm not going to be King Lear. But one day you may see my Bottom.
You'd be. I was going to say you'd make a great Bottom. Jay's more of a top, but. What?
Let's add some more pauses. Please.
I think there should be some more
timing,
some more beeps going on.
We're gonna have this whole thing's gonna be beeped, I'm afraid.
Right. So I think there's a skill set that is transferable to acting, and that I think is quite evident. I mean, I've done some film. I'm booked for other films. I've done some audio plays. There are things out there, and I'll swear it may be a little bit because of the posh accent. It may be a little bit because the diction's okay, but it's mostly, I think, comic. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. An experienced comic. I mean, you're not.
Yeah.
You've been out there.
That's an extra plus. Being able to say comic is quite good. Being able to say comic that's been paid for being a comic and has done it for a while is a whole lot better. But I would encourage every actor and budding actor to try comedy, because you'll learn a pack of skills. You'll learn a different form of improvisation. You'll learn a different form of thinking on your feet. When things go wrong, you don't have to go and run to the wings. You can do other things with it. It's not a big thing but you have actors where something's gone wrong and say, oh, we improvised our way out of it, and we got out of it. We managed to get out. Well, to me, it's meat and drink. to me, something goes wrong, or you have to reference something in the room, a light bulb goes bang or something like that. Someone coughs, someone leaves, you reference it, you deal with it, you build on it, you make a laugh from it, and it enhances the show. So I think it's really, really handy, and other people seem to think the same as well. That said, I'm cast to do a short film now that has no comedy in it at all that I can see, but by the time it comes out, there will be.
Okay. Because you're going to put it in there.
It's what they're going to get.
Right.
I can't do. Well, I could do a serious face if you like.
No, that's even comedic.
No, it's just silly, isn't it?
But I mean, honestly, some of the best comedians make the best dramatic actors as well. You can see it. Stand-ups have a kind of a reputation. Jim Carrey plays great drama. Michael Keaton was a stand-up, and he does great drama. Even Billy Crystal, Robin Williams. Yeah, there's kind of an endless list, at least from the Americans. But
all right, we'll chuck in Eddie Izzard. He's doing Hamlet at the moment.
There you go. Yeah, and I'm sure he's doing a bang-up job. Not
according to the stage review. The stage review only gave him 2 stars. They said it's really, really good.
Hamlet and drag.
2 stars.
Okay. For Eddie Izzard. All right. Well, maybe he's not doing so great, but
no, I expect it's terrific. I suspect it's terrific.
As
long as it's done
Mark
authentically.
Maron, there's a ton of. I mean, it's on and on. So I think you could, if you applied yourself to just going for it and trying the dramatic, seeing what you get out of it.
I have found. I mean, I went for shock horror, a face-to-face audition.
Wow.
Yeah, don't get many of those now.
No.
And it was for a film where they didn't want somebody comic, and I to be honest, I wasn't feeling on the top of my game as I went in.
Right.
And I didn't do a good job because I don't have the technical skills yet.
Right.
That I think you need. With an audience, I know how to track the audience and how to look at different parts of the audience and where I'm going to be going.
Right.
But with film, clearly I should have delivered this straight to the camera, this particular piece, or found a spot over there where I'm delivering it to the person over there. So I'm missing all those acting skills.
Yeah. Are you taking any kind of courses or anything? Have you taken any?
Ought to.
Yeah. Probably
not going to.
Yeah.
I'm finding there are enough things that I can learn as I do it.
Learn on the go. Yeah.
And I think that's more useful if you can learn by actually doing it. So I'll do a short film and get something out of it, and that will put me in good stead for something else. And all sorts of stuff is just thrown at you. I did a day of modeling last week.
Modeling what?
Great.
Did you get were Right Said Fred on your horizon as a band? When
yeah, I know Right Said Fred.
Yeah. So I mean, I was channeling "I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt" song, which is
as you were trying
he's
to
a model.
So you're wearing a shirt, yeah.
Yeah, but I was fully clothed. It was a lifestyle shoot, so it was okay. But yeah, and why not? Just if you're prepared to throw yourself out there. I think the other thing about stand-up, which is I think useful for your audience member, you are completely exposed
in modeling.
So
when you were
being
modeling.
completely exposed makes
I thought
you
said
more.
You were dressed.
But it makes you more prepared to. Yeah,
vulnerable, I think, is the word you mean.
This comedy is not as easy as it looks, is it, Todd?
No, it's tough.
It makes you more prepared to throw yourself into anything. So a man of
so being vulnerable on stage, it prepares you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you go out as actor. Someone's written this stuff. It might be shit. Oh, sorry. It might be beep, but. You're not responsible for that. Someone else has directed it, and they may not have done a great job of directing it.
Right.
And so that's okay. So you've got to sort of come back. If your performance is not very good, that's only part of the whole package. But you go out as a comic,
right?
And yes, you've got an audience who may react in a particular way. Yes, it may not be set up perfectly, but you wrote it, you directed it, you performed it. You are completely, really responsible for everything on that stage.
Right.
Which brings with it some joy and brings with it some huge vulnerability. If it goes badly,
Yeah, it's all on
it's
you.
really down to you.
Yeah.
So once you've experienced that a load of times, that's very useful, and means that I will go and be Father Christmas with no compunction.
Right.
You become bulletproof.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were saying at the beginning before we brought you on too. It's the thick skin that you develop from doing stand-up.
Back to moisturizing.
Will right, which will serve you well, I think, in the future, especially when they denigrate you for having like no training and no actual like experience, skill or talent or experience, which is bound to happen.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, the session, the audition, interview, whatever that I went to, that I felt I wasn't doing a great job and I wasn't looking in the right sort of place. They were very polite to the old codger as they showed me the door and said, "Well, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day." And you get the message from that maybe not gone as well as you thought.
How did that make you feel? So how did the thick skin serve you in that moment? The bulletproofness. Did you feel bulletproof in that moment? Because no
one's completely bulletproof.
Well, you just said they were if you were a stand-up comic.
No, nobody is completely bulletproof.
Okay.
But I did think to myself,
so it stung a little bit,
as I always do. Either things are good that happen to me, or I learn something from it.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot from dying on your ass on stage. You huge amount, much more than when it all goes well.
Yeah.
Sometimes at the end of a really good gig, you think, "Oh, I should have added that as well. That would have made it better."
Right.
But you learn so much by the disasters, and thankfully, I don't get disasters anymore. There's a long time since, but now I'll have a dreadful gig in a few days. But I think that's the difference. You learn from what goes badly, and I am now more equipped to go to future sessions. If you're an idiot and completely lacking in self-awareness, and you come out and think, "Oh, but it was their fault." Sorry, I went very camp then, didn't I? Then I think I think you're lost. The self-awareness, I think, is massive.
Yeah.
I went in there not feeling very well because I hadn't been very well. So maybe I shouldn't have gone. I went in there without preparing in the way I should have done. I went in with the wrong approach.
Yeah.
Change those things, might be different.
It might serve you to some degree, I think, because you don't have a lot of that experience and you're not preconditioned to be nervous in a way that an actor would be, and you don't quite know what to expect. It might have served you up to this point, and it might continue to serve you, or you might find, no, you need to start to conform a bit more with what's expected of you. But there is probably a freshness that happens when you walk into the room that they're not used to, because you don't know what kind of humiliation waits for you at the other end of this if you aren't prepared. But now maybe you do.
The other thing is I'm at a particular point, age-wise, life-wise, career-wise. I've bought the house.
Right. You don't need the gig.
It's not the end of the world. I don't need to earn the money to eat next week.
Yeah.
Whereas most struggling actors at early stage, they need that.
Yeah.
I need this. It really matters to them, and it matters to me for my entertainment, for my self-esteem. Maybe I don't think so, but I like to keep busy and I like to do things. So it does matter, but I only want to do things that are good.
Yeah.
So I turn down the same amount of stuff as I accept. Because you look at it and you think, because of this, it's not a good one to do. The standard is not going to be great. Lapland, very high standard. I mean, it was Disney standard. It was great. And other things I do, it doesn't matter if it's a student thing or a student film. I would happily do if I felt it was going to be of a standard.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach.
But I will learn from everything that I do. And having to learn to do my very first long actor's speech, as we now refer to it, is the correct term. I went and did that for a proper theatre company in a proper theatre, and to go through that audition process, I think much better to go and do it than to have 3 years training at RADA as to how to be great at an interview. To actually do it live, I think I learned 3 months worth of what you learn in RADA, how to be good at interview.
It's not an interview. This isn't headhunting. It's an audition.
Audition. What's the difference between an interview and an audition?
Well, an interview, they talk to you about who you are as a person and they ask you questions. An audition, they want to see your talent. There may be an interview portion to the casting, but it's an audition for you.
I think
playing
there's
a role.
Well, that was an open casting. So they were saying they wanted to know about me and things that I could do generally.
They might have interviewed you a bit.
Their pool of 20 people.
But they had you do an audition, right?
Yeah, I did a performance.
Yeah.
And I would argue that at an interview, it is a performance. You prepare for an interview. Okay. At least you do the way I teach people to do it. You prepare for an interview. Right. You know what the things are that you've got to convey. You just don't necessarily know the order that you're going to convey them in. You have a pitch. Instead of having a song, you have a pitch. So I think the similarity is very similar. I don't see the two as being separate. And it's also a two-way dialogue. They may be auditioning me, but I'm also auditioning them. If I don't believe in them,
unique. Right.
I'm not going to spend 6 weeks working with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that arrogant? I don't know.
No, it's a different approach for sure. It's not one that I think most actors take. They're looking for the job, but you're, like you said, in a position where you 6 weeks is more valuable and precious to you, working on something that's
and a day is precious to me.
Quality over quantity. Yeah.
I'm game, enthusiastic, and will try and say yes. Like? I'll try and find the way that I can say yes. What does that look
like when Matthew goes, can you tell me a little bit more about your project? What's the budget? And you go, how many projects have you directed?
I haven't actually asked those two questions directly at an audition, as we'll now call it, because that's the term. Monologue was the other one we missed earlier.
Yeah. It's an educational podcast in the end.
But I would.
I can see that you would. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be refreshing.
Maybe suicide.
It's hit and miss. I mean, yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could go either way. They could be like, wow, that's great. Nobody's ever asked that. And we appreciate that. And yes, we want to tell you about our project because they're excited about their project. Promise you that. Even if you can see from the outside that it doesn't look great.
People love to talk about
what
themselves
and
what they're doing. Yeah. So I don't think it's an unhelpful thing to ask.
And with your background in headhunting, I suppose you have a kind of a way and a means by which you can ask those kinds of questions without seeming arrogant or unimpressed by the answers. But generally speaking, for actors, we don't interview the production company as to what their plans are with the project.
You just take your trousers down and let them do what they want to do.
In a sense, yes. Well, you come in. Generally speaking, what you want to do is
you can research.
You come into a room, and you give them something that you feel they need. So you've got.
Whereas, if you ask them what they need, then you can give them the right thing.
If you can do it on the fly, a lot of times they won't give you that option, especially, let's say, with a self-tape or something. You're meant to look at the script, interpret, and give an interpretation and show them this is what you'll get on the day if you book me. And if they go, wow, that's something we weren't expecting, or we had a whole different idea, but we like your idea, then that's great. But if they don't like it, then obviously you won't hear from them again.
Sure.
But being in the room saying, I don't know what you guys want, tell me. They might not know what they want. Or they have some kind of generic idea.
I did that at a meeting, not quite in that that direct way, but I wanted to know what they were hoping to get from a character, and instead of them saying, "Can you do it like this?" I just pushed back and said, "Is it this that you're thinking? Is it this that you're thinking? Where's this coming from?" And got a big insight as to what they were thinking.
That can be good too. Sometimes the director likes to see that there's somebody that they can work with who's going to ask questions, and other times it's a big shoot day that they're looking at, and they just need the guy to come on in costume, walk on set, do his bit, and go away, because they have celebrities and big budgets and big shots to do that day, and they don't need somebody collaborating over the 5 lines that you've got.
No,
you know.
I think the collaborating thing is another step on, but I think to ask what you want and then deliver what they want, rather than to guess what they want and deliver that, is more useful
if they know what they want, but they don't always know what they want. That's the problem.
Yes, that's good. Thank you for those thoughts.
There's some pro tips from me to you. See, we're exchanging now. What kind of stuff? Yeah, right over here. You don't have to follow any.
No.
What kind of stuff are you doing comedically?
Didn't go in my head. It was just lobbed over there.
Okay.
What am I doing comedically?
I mean, are you opening, closing? You got 30-minute? What are you doing? 40 minutes? That hour? When's your special?
You don't want to. I don't want to do 40-minute sets. I have done 40-minute sets, but I don't want to. I am very comfortable with the space that I'm in terms of doing comedy, which is opening spots, closing spots, and emceeing spots. I'm the middle level of reliable, perfectly fine. He'll do you a good job, rather than something incredible and zany and ethereal that will disappear in no time. Because, as I mentioned before, a lot of people drop out of comedy after a short period of time and do something else.
Right. You're stalwart.
Yeah, I guess.
You're a guarantee.
I know what I'm doing.
You're an anchor.
Yeah. So as a safe pair of hands. So I'm comfortable with that. I don't know. It's opened lots of silly doors of different things.
Yeah.
And you never know quite what. So do you say such as
contacts and things, or I mean, what kind of doors?
Yeah, contacts and even through
other opportunities.
The doing the comedy things, you get asked to do. I was asked to do a play one time. I was asked to do an audio sitcom for Audible for the Prime people. So things do come along
panels
that you're not expecting.
Panels, radio shows.
Yeah, a radio panel show, TV panel show. Stuff comes along that may or may not be standard. It may or may not be comedy. It probably is related to comedy, but it's not stand up on stage and do 20 minutes with your normal club set. Sometimes it's hosting things because you're very comfortable hosting events, introducing bands at music festivals, an auction, all sorts of weird stuff gets thrown at you. Voice of God things at conferences. I do speak at conferences as well, and that of course is a very easy, straightforward sort of thing to do. But unlike most people at conferences, the jokes do land.
Right. Like, what's a conference joke?
No. There's no specific conference joke, but there will be jokes that's in your set, in your delivery. But you must have been to the conference. So many conferences, someone gets up there and I'll tell you what, I'll hit them with me joke about data. And they tell the joke about data to the tumbleweed of the 2,000 people in the audience, and then they've got a very excruciating 50 minutes still to go. So there's nothing like the experience of doing stand-up to tell you what you can get away with and what you can't get away with, and meaning that if you do it, you're probably going to do it with enough conviction that it will land. So again, with other aspects of life, most actors, I presume, have a day job because they need it.
Younger actors, I think
you want to eat. So yeah, I think the comedy thing again will help with your day job.
Right.
Yeah.
You just get better at relating to people and understanding.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, over to Jay. What do you think, Jay?
Yes. What do I think? I'm being asked what I
Wow.
think. This is so excited. I thought we agreed we weren't going to ask Jay questions. No. That all makes
Yeah,
that
we're
all
starting.
makes that all makes sense. Though I find comedy in my day job can sometimes make me worse. Like I'm a bartender on the weekends, and sometimes when I try to be funny or like I'm being myself or personable, people kind of don't want it. They kind of want me to put on a show. They don't want me to be me. And to me, stand up is about like writing my stuff and being me, right? Like and discover like because what I find funny and then finding what other people find funny, right? It's kind of a self-expression. And at work, people often don't like that. They don't want that.
That's
They want me
very
to
interesting. But
they, thank you,
go
sir.
on.
They want me to be like like a Moretti, please, and I'll be like anything else for you, sir? And they'll be like, okay, no, and I'll be like, okay, ha 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 ha.
Jay works at a bar.
But as a bartender or a waiter, if you are engaging with people, you'll get bigger tips.
People love in America, and I don't get I get occasionally, I guess, get tips, but I do often engage, and because I'm American, I'm work at this posh club. So I definitely engage with people and I'm American, so I'm like exotic, right? So people are like, ooh, in America, where in America are you from? Oh, I've been to America, I've been to the States, blah, 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 blah. And so I engage. I don't really get much, I don't get tips though. But behind the bar it's different because it's really busy. So when I'm like cleaning tables, I'll go out and talk to people and it'll be great. It'll be a good time. But it's also I don't plan what I'm gonna say. In stand up, I plan what I say. When I talk to people, I never do plan. Like I was a surprise for me to hear you that when you interview that like that people when they do job interviews probably plan what they're gonna say at the interview. I've never thought about that. That's a crazy concept to me. But yeah, of course I do.
You at an interview, you have a pitch. Your
I guess
pitch is
so, yeah,
you.
and you memorize it like you're saying like a monologue, right? Like a long actor speech. So that's why an audition and an interview are similar. And I never thought of that because I've always thought an interview was not about coming
No,
up
no,
with
no. You
something.
know what questions they're going to be
But no,
asking
but
in a
of
sense, and
course that
you
what
want to
you're
have your
saying
answers prepared.
makes
Yeah.
sense. You prepare what the questions and exactly what you're going to say. Though an audition, you have an exact lines, but maybe when you do an interview, you also prepare exact lines. So yeah,
Yes.
that
The
blows my mind.
difference is, as an actor, my understanding is, as an actor, the skill is not just remembering the lines and walking onto the stage at the right time. It's delivering it as if it's the first time that character has ever said it. Every night, 8 nights a week for 12 months. It always comes across as this is the first time I've ever said it. Same in comedy. It's as if that thought has just come into
Right.
my mind.
It's got to be fresh.
And I'll say that. So yes, you prepare it for an interview, for comedy, for acting, but sometimes you are going to say it slightly differently to make it feel authentic. If you can fake authenticity, I mean, you're away. But to make it feel authentic is the thing.
Mm.
That's all. So you'll have a pitch, you'll have answers to questions that you're going to come up with at an audition, an interview, or walking around wiping up tables. You'll have things in your mind that you will say that in that case, latter case, might get you a tip. But how you deliver it is going to be slightly different every time to be authentic. And I think all of us are fishing in the same sort of pool. Be authentic with things that we prepared. Work out from experience. That's what I did before, or that's what I didn't do before and should have done, and come up with a response that's authentic for that
That's
time.
always the skill. I mean, if it's commercials or voiceover work, even there's a script in front of you, they want, particularly now, the delivery needs to sound as if it's coming fresh and new, straight out of your head, as if you're talking for the first time about it, or as a friend, from one friend to another.
And on your comment, Jay, about it's being authentically you when you're being a comic, you'll have an unhappy time as a comic if it's authentically you. It's got to sound authentic. They talk about finding your voice.
Maybe that's
finding
why I had a miserable time.
Sorry?
I said, yeah, maybe that's why I had a miserable time.
Yeah, maybe because you can't put your heart and soul out there. Also, nobody wants to hear 20 minutes of this is why I was depressed and the anxiety I went through, and some masturbation jokes. I mean, nobody really wants to hear that, but that's what open mic acts tend to come on and talk about. How they're neurodiverse, how their life is awkward.
Session.
No one wants to know. But what you do end up, when you find your voice, what you want to present as will often be an exaggerated version of you. No more than that. But it will be something different. And as an exaggerated version of you, or as a completely different character, you can say different things.
Yeah.
The stuff that you can't say in normal conversation, you can say as that character.
Right. It's a hybrid characterized version of yourself that you're
and that's
portraying.
Useful.
Yeah.
That's useful. That means you can say funny stuff that is just, oh, that's a bit too far.
But the audience understands that you're not speaking as the person. If you're saying
for stand-up, you think people look at stand-up comedians and go, oh, they're just being a character?
Yes.
I don't know.
They should.
Interesting.
Also, particularly if you're saying things like, I was on the moon yesterday, and the funny thing about the moon is, they don't look at you and go, oh my God, is that guy a cosmonaut?
Well, there is an air.
I thought he was a stand-up comic.
When I was doing stand-up in New York, there is an air of mystique. Like, now that you say, because it's like the audience does not, they actually don't know if it's you or not. So I could say things, and some of them obviously weren't true. Some of them might be, but I could say this and people would laugh, and afterwards would be like, wait a second, did that actually happen? And I'd get a lot of people being like, is that true? And I wouldn't say anything, but there was an air of mystique. People often are like, wait, is that?
I think the primary thing, and maybe Matthew can back me up if I'm right, serving the audience, the joke, the funny, entertaining the audience. This should take the precedent over everything else. That's primary.
100%.
Right.
It's not about you
and your life experience
serving yourself.
Yeah.
It's about the performance.
Right. Entertaining the audience, and if that means being vulnerable to some degree or exposing yourself and being real about situations, that's okay. But you want to find ways in which that's relatable to audiences and still is there to serve what they came for, which is they're not there on a Friday night at 9:30 with 3 drinks in them to listen to you bemoan
therapy. No.
Your dog has cancer.
Todd has clearly thought this through and understands it. If only he was funny, we'd be away.
That would be, then boom. If I could just tell us about your process real quick, Matt, before we let you go. You write down your stuff? Are you constantly writing? You take notes? Little scraps of paper?
Something just comes into your mind. Something comes into your mind.
Things come in your mind. What do you do with that? What do you do with it?
You always carry around a notepad,
you keep a notepad.
Pull over if you're driving and put it in your phone and remember it, and that will be useful. I'll come back to that later.
Yeah. Everybody has. I have a problem. I use OneNote, for example. I immediately, if I say something I think is funny or something comes up that's funny, I will stop.
Yeah.
And I kick myself later if I thought, no, I'll remember that. And then an hour.
Yes, and
later,
you never do.
It's gone.
You never
do. It's gone. Yeah. So you have to literally stop. But you're taking notes.
Yeah, if you can't write it down, you have to phone someone if you're driving, and ideally hands-free kids, then tell them and ask them to write it down. But you can't pretend you're going to remember it.
Yeah.
Then you've got to trial it, and you'll tell the idea to a friend who'll throw it back at you and say something else. Then you've got to try it at an open mic night and see if it works, and then it might end up in the act.
Okay. So it's always ever evolving.
Yeah.
And you're doing 20 minutes gigs usually?
20 to 30 minutes for me.
20, 30. And opening or closing, which do you prefer?
I like opening because it's tougher.
Yeah.
Because the audience don't quite know what they're getting yet.
Right.
You're establishing the night. Closing is actually quite easy in comparison, but you've got to be good because you've got to finish the night and everybody goes home happy. But if you're competent, it's
probably
easy.
Easier if everybody else has been good
Yeah, that doesn't
before
hurt.
you as well. Because
I mean,
then,
sometimes if everyone's been bad before you, they're just desperate for someone to come on and
well,
make it
right,
okay.
right.
Um,
Some
but
bit of funny left, yeah.
yeah, but there are better closers than me. There are better
I'm sure of
openers than
that.
me. There are better comics than me, and that's fine. I'm a curiosity on one particular night in Bedfordshire. No, I'll never play Bedfordshire.
There's no place. There is a club here that does, I think.
Is there a club in Bedfordshire?
There's a place that does a night once a month
Cool.
or something. And are you're emceeing as well?
Yeah, I like to MC.
like
MC is just engaging with people and keeping control and setting it up and not being self-indulgent.
Right. And telling a few jokes here and there.
Yeah,
Those out.
you must introduce the idea of laughing, but not being self-indulgent. You do get some MCs who do 30 minutes before they bring an act on, and that,
Right,
of course,
right.
kills the night.
Yeah, cruel. So what? Oh, yes, you with the glasses.
Me
Young
with the
man.
glasses, thank you. You talked about keeping control as an MC a few times. What is? Do you have any tricks for that? Like, what do you mean by that? Like,
It's
yeah.
like a school. You're like they're school children.
Yeah,
and you have to be the headmaster.
Yeah, you just
Talked about it
tell
with the hands.
people what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen, and make sure people behave. That's all.
Do you
Yeah.
Like what's
you
going
good
to happen
at-
soon is I'm off to the loo.
Are you good at making like? Do people ever like do things that are like you have to like?
He's an older,
know,
graying
like-
gentleman with a posh voice. So in this
Very,
country, I
very
think,
rarely, but I can get people to do things that they didn't expect they would do.
Wow. Just from telling them. You don't have
Yeah,
to do
tell
anything. You
them to
just
do it.
say do it and they do it.
You're very
Yeah.
authoritarian. I can see that. I get
Wow.
It's a bit like wrap it up soon, guys. I really need the loo.
that. Yeah, which is what you're
That'll
trying to say
happen.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
there's
MC at my
nothing
high
else.
school, by the way. We had a school with over 3,000 kids. I was the MC for a year at my high school.
He
So,
says leaving for the loo.
Back in a bit.
well, we'll let you go. What's next for Matthew Bayliss? Where are you going to be? Where can people find you?
Oh, all over. I don't. The gigs sell themselves because it's not just about me. So all over.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Do you have a website?
Thank you for the thought, though. Thank you for the potential plug.
Yeah, all right. So look for Matthew Bayliss. He's all over the country. He's doing stand-up. Great to have you with us, buddy. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate all your time. There's your applause to see you out. And we'll talk soon. You can go to the loo now, Matt.
There you go. Bye.
Bye. All right. Wow.
All right.
What an experience that was, huh?
Yeah, he definitely knew a lot. It's interesting because we tend to interview people on the actor side, and I really did feel like we interviewed someone on the like,
Yeah.
you know, in their field, kind of coming from a different direction.
Definitely.
Which was
and
like
and
he's
trying to
calling out different
navigate the
interviews.
world of acting that he's you might think, well, stand-ups and actors and that they do run in parallel worlds and they do cross over from time to time, but that would be mostly the stand-up who crosses into acting through opportunities.
You know what?
Right?
You say that, but when I did my stand-up class in New York, I was like the only actor. Everyone there
Well, that's what I'm
was
saying.
in
So
yeah,
from-
exactly what you're saying.
Actors don't gravitate towards stand-up naturally, but stand-ups can find themselves in situations where they're acting. So they're parallel universes, but actors aren't all capable of doing stand-up. It's a totally different animal, and an interesting one. But they are performative, and they do require similar skills. And it's just interesting to hear how Matthew is now trying to sort of navigate his way into the world of acting with very little experience, knowledge, or understanding of even the terminology.
Yeah, really a different. Well, no, the
Which you had to
interview.
help him
You
with.
totally were like, bro, Matthew,
It's
audition.
yeah, he said that to me. We were having a beer, and he's like, "I did quite a long actor's speech for that one," and I was like, "A long actor's? What was he trying to say?" It's like, I think he's talking about a monologue. It's like I did a Shakespearean, one of those long Shakespearean actor speeches. I thought,
I did that the other day. I didn't remember the word for furniture. I think I might have already told you this, and I was
think you
like,
did,
those
yeah.
things you put in a room
Yeah.
that
I think
you
we talked
can
about
use
this already in
probably.
yeah.
In the podcast. Right.
Yeah.
I'll
It's
move
one
it.
of
I'll
one
move
of the
it on.
more boring anecdotes that you like to tell. But
Fantastic.
But anyway, it was just interesting, and we wish him good luck here from the Offstage Acting podcast.
We do.
To Matthew on his journey to becoming a famous actor, and you know, well, not famous, but working. And yeah, I'm gonna start doing stand up soon. So Matthew, look out! I'm gonna start picking your brain more officially, and I want all the insight. I want to be elevated.
Do you have your type 5? Do you have 5 minutes?
No, I have 10. I've got a tight 10.
Wow. Are you
I've
gonna do it, any of it for us, or is now?
Yeah, I'm gonna
not a
do
good
the whole
time?
set for you right now, actually. So the funny thing about what's the deal with airplane bathrooms?
Oh God. Okay.
No?
I have to
Good?
go to the loo. If
Oh,
we
you
could
too?
I gotta
Oh,
go.
everybody bails
Yeah.
out on me. All right, folks, that's it. We know when to quit. The Offstage Acting Podcast. Thank you, Matthew Bayliss, comedian
Matthew.
extraordinaire. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Todd.
Boy, Andy.
Thank you, the audience member, the listener.
I just want to encourage everybody to get acting, keep acting, and we'll see you next time. Hasta la vista.
Baby.
Baby.
What are the words I'm not allowed to say?
The F word.
Could you
The
give me a
shit
list
word.
of words? The C word?
Contempt.
What about, can I say bollocks?
Yeah, you
Is
can
that
say
okay?
bollocks.
They gave me a list of words I couldn't say. They said you can't say fuck or cunt, but you can say
Yeah, and bollocks.
and bollocks, yes.
Yeah.